Good morning. Godlings. Good morrow in the case you find it some other time, not morning. Coffee's up. It's morning thunder. I'm trying desperately not to slurp. I just awakened. I had a question from a subscriber, Andrea, on forgiveness. Forgiveness. Oh, there's nothing else like it. It's the most transformative thing you can do, and so simple. She asks how to forgive herself. Can you help me with forgiving myself? I have done some really despicable things in my life, in moments of flashing peak. As long as I can stay cool, frosty, everything's fine. But when my sensibilities are really offended or someone sets off a PTSD response, I can do some pretty appalling things. So I understand guilt, Andrea. I really do. You say, sometimes forgiving my own actions and words is where I find the most evidence of the ponies. Yes. I'd love to learn how I can forgive myself and would gladly accept any advice or helpful ways to navigate this. And namaste to you too, my dear. Get my head screwed on straight. Here's the way I handle it. I don't want to hate anybody. I prefer to love everyone. And some people, in my experience, are easier to love from further away. And metaphorically that works too, because when you back away from your personal involvement in whatever conflict has caused the upset, you have an opportunity to, that is, when you stop identifying with the story, because it's never the thing that's happening or being said or done that is upsetting you. It's what you're saying to yourself about the situation that's upsetting you. So if you disidentify with that story and the self-talk and observe what's really going on, just fairly and rationally, it's easier to forgive in the first place because you're not caught up in identification with that story and why you're righteous, your indignation is righteous. Another way of backing away is to see whomever, yourself included, from another perspective, rather than inside the skin or inside the conflict with that other person. I imagine everyone, as I feel I still am, there's still a little girl here. I haven't changed, not really, over all the years of my life. And I imagine that the little child really is still in all of us. So, with people like even folks in our present administration whom you probably realize I have some grave reservations about what they're doing, and what it's motivated by, etc., and how it's affecting the world. I can see these people as little children, just as I am able to see myself for the little child still here. And I realize they've been traumatized too. We've all been traumatized by the world, and in fact, that's one of the things that we're here to learn to overcome, the stories about identification with the stories about our trauma. When I think of us all as little children, just in grown-up bodies, still scared, still just winging it, doing the best we can, none of us really being, we're all, as the characters we play in the world, we are all fictional characters, so we're all kind of imposters. And everybody's running around with that secret knowledge that they are not who they appear to be. And sometimes that's good in the case of growing enlightenment, I guess you would call it. Lucidification I like better. And sometimes it's not so good, because it gives the person a feeling like they alone, or they among a small percentage, are wrestling with feelings of being an imposter. Everybody feels that way. It is at one time or another, or some people quite constantly in their lives. Until you get in the context and you realize everybody else mostly feels that way too, then it's easier to let yourself off the hook. Easier to forget that imposter syndrome feeling. In the end, I realize, and this has been pivotal for forgiving for me, everybody is doing the best they can with the skill set they have under the conditions they're in at any given moment. That doesn't say they couldn't do better. They just couldn't do better with the skill set they have. That allows me to pretty readily let them off the hook. They're just trying to cope. They're just a human being, just like me, trying to cope. I can leave room for people to make mistakes. In that context, that's the way I frame it. That's my story about what's going on. And that story allows me to let everyone off the hook, myself included. Because I've noticed that if I don't let myself off the hook, I'm going to be carrying around a grievance that I'm left out of that forgiveness. I'm left out, and so it's not going to really allow me to forgive everybody else. I'm going to carry resentment that I have to forgive them, but I don't forgive me. And vice versa. Works the same way around. If you don't forgive everybody else, you're going to know you're judging them, and you're going to judge yourself for judging them, and you're not going to let yourself off the hook. So the only way to forgive within time, within the temporal context, is to let everybody off the hook simultaneously, self-included. This is why the Course in Miracles basically tells us that if you leave anyone out of your forgiveness, you can't realize your own salvation. Salvation is the cessation of suffering that comes from being forgiven. Or at least that's one aspect of it. Lucidity is what all of this is salvation. Because in lucidity, it's easier to forgive everything, everyone. Now, another way to view people so that it's easier, another story you can tell yourself so it's easier to forgive them, is that from a higher level, in the spiritual level, these individuals have come into our lives, some of them on a grand scale, like some of our leadership. They've come into our lives in order to play a part that we all basically knew, at least generally, about ahead of time. And having been dead, I know from that experience that all we are really is love. So it's easier for me to forgive these people from that perspective, the eternal, because I realize that they volunteered to play the part of being, in some cases, scorned, despised, hated, pelted with negative energy from upset people all the time. Just a generally bad vibe. It's really bad mojo that they're being pelted with. This is pretty much true of anybody in politics, any of our leaders. Honeymoons in this country are short-lived with our political officials. We're not all that careful about the way we vote, if we bother to get off our butts and vote at all. And we very quickly sour on leaders because we're impatient and we have short memories. So that's me admonishing the American electorate. The rest of the world thinks we're pretty much stupid over here. Because of our short memories, our poor education, in which we do not have a historical context to judge and make a fair decision, an informed and wise decision on our officials, and then we don't give them much time to handle the mess our last voting caused, and it is our fault. When I say our fault, I mean it's our doing. Fault is a ridiculous concept, but your doing. You need to know we do all of this to ourselves. As long as you're offloading responsibility for how we got to where we are, you are not going to realize you have the power to get someplace better. You're not going to claim that power either, because your story is meant to absolve you, and so you're not being entirely true with yourself, not being entirely honest. And that is critical. So from a higher level, I judge these people as playing their part. When I say judge, I mean I just assess it. It's not like good, bad. It's just, okay, this is what's going on. They're playing their part. And to a degree, they volunteered to take on all this negativity in order to play this huge role, or these huge roles, in our lives. Interestingly, one of the things that's happened to me since Robert Kennedy was killed when I was 5 years old in '63, those were my first clues that I was a medium. He and I met for 3 or 4 nights in a row after his death. He was out in the yard, and we went for a walk hand in hand every time I dreamt of him. Down the road, the busy road that I wasn't allowed to cross by myself. He helped me across in these very lucid dreams, and we talked about the future of the world, and he told me I had a part to play, but I don't remember what it was. I was only 5, and that's a very long time ago now. I've had dreams of talking to Putin several times. I had dreams of George W. Bush, talking to him several times. And recently I've had a couple of dreams of talking to Trump. And Musk as well. For Musk, I was weeping. I was saying, I'm so sorry. You had so much promise. This is terrible. And I was genuinely grieved for him. Which was interesting because I wasn't viewing him at all from the perspective of inside the story of what we're going through now, because here I'm quite offended with him. But from that higher level consciousness, I knew him and I loved him. And the same thing happened with Donald Trump. From higher level consciousness in this lucid dream, I knew him and I loved him. So you see, we forgive from inside of Earth venue, saying, okay, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to release my grievances. I'm not going to feed my attention energy into that grievance anymore. And then all that energy you've been putting into that grievance self-talk comes back to you. And it brightens your lucidity, especially if you did it by observing that the self-talk, exactly what it was that was in those emotions, and how it was really not serving you at all, not true, not fair, and not loving. Certainly not loving to you to keep battering yourself with perseverating on it. And so in a moment of lucidity, you took back your power. from that self-talk that you had given power to so upset you. This brightens the intensity of your lucidity, which makes you more and more stable as far as things upsetting you in the world. So from inside Earth Venue, we tend to forgive by way of saying, I simply will decline to judge it. I call back my energy from it. I have discerned that that self-talk is not making me happy and is in fact adversely affecting me. So you do the wise thing and you remove your mental endorsement. You don't allow your mind to perseverate on it. You actively say healthy things in the place of the negative things you were saying before, in order to counterbalance the bad juju that you put into all of that negative self-talk. That's the way we do it in Earth Venue. Now, from outside Earth Venue, in the eternal, we forgive by realizing nothing ever happened. We dreamed. This is a dream. This whole thing is a very elaborate dream, and we're doing all of this to ourselves, to our good and to our detriment. And in lucidity, you can take control. The rooster's crowing again. Wake up, morning thunder. Burr, 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 burr. In lucidity, we take control of our self-talk. We supervise our minds. And we begin reconstructing reality, hopefully together. I'd love for us to do that. Diffusing all of the energy. I mean, my God, the energy right now in the world. People are just putting so much worry, so much not that talk is going on. Not that. You should really consider stopping doing that. I mean, it's really adding to the bad mojo. And it's making everybody's more miserable, because now everybody has to cope with their own lucidity and their own self-talk, and in an ambiance of the soup of negative energy, of frightened, horrified, angry energy. Please stop. Please be lucid. Please read our book, Rise in Lucidity and Master Anxiety. If you've read A Course in Miracles, this is channeled from Michael, Rise is, and he's the same voice as in A Course in Miracles. He says A Course in Miracles was kind of wordy, and the real nuggets of understanding were spread throughout the book, and you had to read a lot of other stuff to get the real nuggets, and he thinks the world is prepared enough now for a much shorter, denser book that's almost all nuggets of gold. So please read Rise. If you've read Asim, you'll grok it. You'll be able to read it in 3 days or less. And it is a very powerful work. It will help you. Maybe schedule a session with us as well. We can help you with some lucidity coaching. So, in all places, people are easier to love when they're further away, metaphorically and in reality. When someone's scaring you and they're physically present, it's hard to feel your love for them until you get further away from them. Then you can feel it again. Same thing with when they're offending your sensibilities. But you can get metaphorically farther away from them by backing away from your own self-talk, in which they are cast as wrong and evil or whatever. And you are cast as the suffering hero or heroine, victim. Back away from that and look at the situation in lucidity. And you can back even further away, completely out of the venue into the all that is, the eternal perspective, and realize nothing has really happened here. This is all a dream. We're going through this, all of us playing our parts, sleeping without lucidity and identification with those parts. And therein lies the source of all the suffering. We are not taking power, the power that is ours as godlings, over our self-talk, over our storytelling. And that is what we're here to learn to do. So now we have a brilliant opportunity to do it, kind of a crash course, when the ambiance is a stew of nasty sentiments. Time you start now, because come hurricane season, with all of the Noah decapitated financially, etc., by Trump, by Musk, you're not going to get the warnings you need on hurricanes, where they are, where they're going. We're going to have Mr. Sharpie there, writing in where he thinks he wants it to go. People aren't going to know how to plan to escape, to evacuate. They're not going to know, because we're not going to have the weather data. And it's going to be catastrophic. And the soup you're going to be working in to get your lucidity is going to be even harder. So please start working on that now, and don't perseverate going, oh my God, she's right. Not that, not that. Please don't do that. Please think, well, she's got a point, but let's all use our wills and our focus of our attention and our self-talk to make it go another way. We don't even have to know how to make it go another way. What we have to do is put ourselves in the emotional vibe, in the state of finding everything has gone just fine. We got through it. Look, we came out the other side of all that horror and we're stronger. Okay, and now it will take a much bigger thing to rock us again. Put yourself in the vibe of a triumph scenario. We've gotten through all of it, and yeah, we're kind of tattered, but whew, we made it through it. And we're much more lucid now on account because of having gone through it. Put yourself in that vibe. I use a triumph scenario in which I manifest that I'm in France, having overcome all of the opportunities that most of us call challenges to getting there. And I'm driving down the road in my new wheels, and I've got the sunroof open, and it's the golden hour, and I'm actually driving kind of southwest to my place from Paris. It's rolling hills with beautiful big round bales of hay casting long shadows against their green lawn backgrounds. The peaks of the Pyrenees mountains are snow-capped and tinged salmon because of the sunset. The sky is that weird color blue on the underside of the clouds, catching the salmon. I can smell the leather interior, the upholstery in my car, and the scent of sea breeze coming from the Atlantic. And on my beautiful surround sound stereo is playing American Woman. That's my triumph scenario. Make one for yourselves. It's hard to build a manifest an environment for yourself at first because you're really laying down new neuronal paths in your brain. But the more you build it, the easier it gets, and the faster you can get into your triumph scenario, which again, when I say a manifest, it is always as if it is happening all around you. You're not looking in through a window, you are centered in the action you're manifesting around you, the environment and the action. Hope I've made that clear. Make yourself a triumph scenario. The most important thing is to manifest it very vividly, really get into it. And the second thing, really feel the emotions. That's how you know you've really gotten into it. You're really feeling the emotions you're going to feel when you've overcome all of those opportunities. Because that's what they are. When you get more and more lucid, you realize how good it feels to take back your power from things that have formerly you've been sleeping in identification with them, and they had the power because you gave it to them to make you miserable. And in lucidity, you realize you become very reinforced for taking back your power, for, actually examining the emotions and the self-talk, and simply, powering down the ones that are not serving you, not true, not loving, not fair. You just power them down, and that power comes back to you. So you begin to view a challenge. You don't see problems anymore. You don't even see challenges anymore. A challenge, you realize, is an opportunity to take back more of your power. So work on that. Let everybody off the hook all at once, realizing we're all just little children bumbling along, trying to be adults, doing the best we can with the skill set we have. Realize, too, that from an eternal perspective, nobody is who they appear to be here. We are all love, and we're here playing our various parts, some of us enduring the hatred of millions for the sake of causing changes. Realize God is still God. In other words, no matter what appears to be happening, God knows no defeat in anything. What looks to you and me right now like nothing but a vast plain full of horseshit is really a sure sign of the ponies that are up ahead. We just haven't caught up with them yet. This will actually all turn to our good. And therein lies the best place to come from as far as storytelling, to forgive it all. Just keep your eyes open for the ponies. If you can't be in your joy and say, yeah, I'm down with all of this, if you can't do that, and I understand why, just defer to judge it. Wait and see. Wait and see, because it's just the little you, the temporal you, and the temporal me that's scared, that's angry, that's offended. Every time I've met so far with Donald Trump, who really offends my sensibilities in the world, every time I meet with him in lucid dreams, I love him and I feel sorry for him because of what he's going through. I find that really weird, but I can't deny the verity of it. Whereas Elon, on the other hand, I love, and I was grieving for him. I wasn't grieving for Donald. I was just respectful for what he's going through. And I knew from that level he was actually trying to accomplish what would, in short order, redound to our good. He's a catalyst. I'm not sure what to call Elon. But even after I wake up, I'm still kind of grieved for Elon. And I'm not sure why. Whereas having had a few dreams of Donald Trump, when I wake up, I'm able to reserve judgment, to wait and see. And I'll tell you one more thing about this. As a for instance, I do not like his methods at all. I do not like him. I hate his personality. I know he's capable of not being an absolute blustering tyrant. I know he's capable of that. And I really despise that behavior. I feel it's unnecessary. But at the same time, he has, in very short period of time, using the circumstances at hand, and I'm not saying he did this intentionally, okay, from this level. I don't think the personality had this in his mind, but it, from a higher level, has perhaps was part of what that higher level of him in the eternal was trying to accomplish. Many presidents have tried to get Europe to put more of their money into defending themselves instead of relying on the United States and the taxpayers here to take care of any attacks on them. Many presidents have tried. But because of the dire situation right now, with what Putin is doing and how Trump is responding to the whole situation, Europe suddenly realizes they cannot count on us. And they have to be able to take care of themselves. And to me, that is a very good thing. I hate the way they're coming to it, but, you know, they were just sort of dragging their feet a long time, and I understand why. They want to provide these social programs for their people, and I agree with them. You know, I want that too. That's a good thing. You know, we lose our empathy, we lose our humanity. We are not human beings anymore. When we lose our empathy, be human that way. And then forgive out of that empathy. I hope that helps, Andrea. Things are not always as they appear. Matter of fact, they're usually not at all. But it's that little I, the one we play inside the world, that freaks out and runs around. And as you get more and more lucid, your identification switches away, shifts. That is the shifts. Goes away from being identified as the story and the mind to being identified as the consciousness in which all this dream unfolds. Let's dream together a good story. A story of forgiveness, redemption, and transformation, which is what the Vampyre Grail Affairs is about, by the way. Speaking of which, please click the like button for me, subscribe if you haven't yet, and share the channel with people. We need lucidity, folks, right now. And I thank you ahead of time for that help. Comments, too. If you ask for help on a specific comment, like Andrea did, I'll try to make a video to help you with that. I love you all. Let's put out that little lie and go forward lucidly.